Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the elusive Thursday edition of the Yard. Yesterday was a full day, guys, and to be honest with you, I am a creature of habit, and when things don't go the way that I hope, it gets a little unsettling. But yeah, full day yesterday is we had the opportunity to view some practice, so went and took some pictures. Watched the team, not a lot to see in the periods that were there. We got the first 5 periods of practice, and I'm not complaining. We're always happy to get anything, and not to mention a lot of people that go to football practice have no idea what they're looking at. But my point being is that we got out there, we got to work, and then shortly thereafter, of course, you drop off the camera to the bride and have her upload those pictures for us so we can use them right away. Back to football media op. That got a little bit delayed. Not anybody's fault. I think it's first time it's happened in like 2 years. Used to, we'd go up there and sit in the media room during the Dan Mullen era and sometimes be there till 10 o'clock at night. But yeah, happy that we've had so much morning access. But it's kind of altered my schedule a little bit. And so we get done with football media op. I immediately have to walk over to baseball. Had a chance to do an exclusive one-on-one interview with Chris Lamonis about the portal haul. Yesterday was the first day of class at Mississippi State, so it's legal for him to talk about those guys. And so that's an exclusive interview only available at genespage.com. And I believe that's probably the, third exclusive one-on-one interview with Lamonis this summer. Yeah, you're not going to find that anywhere else. But, so yeah, then I had to go by and help, upload videos from the morning and things of that nature and come home and then transcribe the Lamonis thing. And to be honest with you, when I got home and I got to working on that, it was already like 7 o'clock. And I said, I need to take some time here to just kind of stare at my phone and unplug a little bit. I need to go flow. It's what I need to do. But no more player availability this week, as your team begins to kind of transition into their final preparations for Eastern Kentucky. We've already had the scout team designations. Those guys are running the what we expect to be the Eastern Kentucky offensive and defensive schemes. And now you're going, ones and twos. And it's really a great opportunity, too. The scout team stuff, a lot of people think, well, that's for somebody else. When you're a younger guy that needs some seasoning, or perhaps you're behind some guys on the depth chart, working on a scout team as a young guy is immeasurable when it comes to your development, because you are competing against the ones and sometimes the twos. So every practice rep that you get is against a really good player, an SEC player. And you may be a guy that's just, 4 months removed from prom, and you're getting to go out there and compete every single day against a guy that may be a pro prospect. You're going to get better. And so if you know somebody that's a scout teamer, that's probably something you need to understand. It's not like they're a bunch of scrubs. It's about getting those guys some practice reps, getting those guys some coaching, getting those guys some development. So it's not a negative thing. It's not. Everybody wants to play, right? Everybody that signed thought, hey, I'll play as a true freshman, be a Heisman candidate, blah, 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 blah. That's just not the case. It's not reality. But here we are, and I think that's important to understand. Now we're getting ready to lock in. And I've had some friends that have told me, man, college football season kind of snuck up on me. And I don't know why, it happens around the same time every year. But it does seem that there is maybe a lack of enthusiasm, with some of our fans. And I think we're going to talk about that some in the show today. But I think a lot of it's just, we have been through so much in the last couple of years, not just counting, all the NIL stuff and the transfer portal stuff. And I've got a lot of friends that have told me, Steve, my level of engagement and emotional investment is maybe not what it was. Because there's been so many things that's changed. It's so hard to kind of get involved, and, you don't know the roster, right? But when you factor into, goodness gracious, we had the death of Sam Westmoreland, then, of course, the passing of Coach Leach, and Then we're all panicking, figuring out what do we need to do, and we elevate Zach Arnett, and I'm going to still defend that decision. I had a chance recently to speak to some people on the NIL side of things, and I asked the question. I said, had we not made that decision, how many notable players do you think we would have lost to transfer portal? And they looked at me and said, just about all of them. Yeah, just about all of them. And so I think even though last year was not the year we had hoped it would be, and certainly not the year we would have expected with Mike Leach calling the shots, had he lived on, God rest his soul. As far as roster retention goes, it made a lot of sense, And Zach, again, I'll always be indebted to Zach Arnett. And yes, I know we went 5-7. We had a school record bowl streak end. But you know what? Zach Arnett didn't politic for that job. We went to him. And he stepped up in our time of need. He did the best he could. It just didn't work out. Made some bad decisions. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Made some bad decisions, elected to move on from the air raid. And, with the pieces that we had in place, it's well documented, right? If we just kind of stuck with what we knew, probably an 8-9 win team last year. But that's not what happened. And so I think it's important now we just kind of move forward. But, we just need to have like a normal year of football, right? You think about how many coaches we've had in the last few years, and how many changes that your roster has had to undergo, and then on top of that too, you've got about 50% new scholarships this year. A lot of entrants from the portal, and of course the recruiting class, and so I think all those are factors, right? I think that there is some fatigue, right? Because we love Mississippi State, we're in this relationship, and sometimes you feel like that the Bulldogs may not be holding up their end of the deal, right? I think this is going to be a fun team to watch. And at times I think it's going to be a frustrating team to watch because you've got so many new pieces. You've got so many new faces in coaching and on the player side. And so, but nevertheless, season's going to be here next week. And you know how it goes. No matter what you've been up to this summer, no matter how you're feeling, no matter what you've lived through, when they tee it up and kick it off for a few hours there, kind of like all is right in the world, especially when you're winning. And so I think this time next week we're going to have a much more hyped up fan base. Because snuck up on you or not, football season is here. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I will have Bulldog Burger Company at some point here in the next couple days. Not sure if it's today or tomorrow. Just kind of figuring it out as we go, right? Really, really excited about that. Every time that I go there, I leave there satisfied. And it doesn't matter if I eat in-house or if I get it to go. And again, they have kind of transformed the to-go process in a way that few people have. Because a lot of times you think, I really don't want to get it to go because by the time I get to my destination, all my food's going to be just cold and yucky, and that's just not the case, man. The folks at Bulldog Burger Company do an amazing job when you need to take it to go, and they pack it with such care. I walk in there and it's like a gift bag, baby. I walk in there and it's all ready to go. My utensils are in there. There's a smile on everybody's face. I pay. I offer a little tip, and I get on the road and I get to my destination, and it's like, hey, I don't even have to heat it up. It's great. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. It's part of what we do, right? And you need those spring rolls in your life. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. And reminder, too, you've got 9 days left to enjoy the comeback burger. I am still pushing to add that to the menu permanently. I love it, and I've had it 3 times now this month, and I've enjoyed it. The bride has had it. One of my music friends had it, and they're like, hey, this is a winner. I think so, too. I don't know who came up with the idea, but they are to be commended. Give those folks a raise. Eat With Us group. They're doing a great job with product development there. And you listen, it's such a great place to go. Quality service, quality atmosphere. There are a few places that over-deliver what they promise, and Bulldog Burger Company is one of them. Be sure and go check them out next time you're in one of those 3 great towns. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right. We have talked extensively, about the defensive side of the football. We talked a little bit about it. We talked offensive line, a little bit of that. I wanted to talk today a little bit about running backs. I don't know how you guys feel. There were some things about the air raid that I really liked, and I didn't like that we didn't run the football more often, and you guys shared in some of those same complaints. It's not really a hot take. But if you notice, and that was one of the things Mason Miller and I discussed about the 2022 season, it's like when we ran over 100 yards, we typically won the game. Typically. In the games that we did better offensively, we had a running component of the offense. In the air raid, in many respects, the running back was just kind of an extension of the passing game. And people used to say, well, it's really an extension of the running game. No, it's not. It's not. And I understand you had little flare passes and things like that. You had some things that kind of looked like a speed option with an overhand pass. But sometimes you have to line up and blow somebody off the football. You have to just kind of line up and say, you know what, hey, we are bigger and better and stronger than you, and we're going to exert our will. Those great Jackie Sherrill teams, even those that were sometimes very challenged offensively, were teams that would get after you. They would absolutely get after you and make some things happen. And so I wanted to do, number one, a little comparison of kind of what we saw last year. I guess maybe to be fair about this, we'll look at Oklahoma too. Because I think that's an important aspect of this. Let's look, okay, this is what we did last year philosophically, and granted it wasn't the air raid, but how many times last year, and let's be honest with ourselves, if we can't be honest with each other, who can we be honest to? Guys, we were so incredibly anemic offensively last year, and sometimes I guess because we've moved on, right? And you've said, you know what, hey, I know what Levy's going to do, or I think I know what Lev's going to do. So I hadn't thought a lot about that. As I shared with you guys here recently, we had 27 offensive touchdowns last year and only 10 in the Southeastern Conference. That's not going to get it done. It's amazing we won 5 games with those anemic numbers. But looking last year, guys, we ran for 2,016 yards total. And, of course, the net ends up being 1,761. We outrushed our opponents by 10 last year. You can say, well, that's reasonable number, I guess. And then when you go back and look at the fact, too, that we couldn't throw the football, especially after Will Rogers got hurt. And, again, you think I'm piling on here. I'm not. I'm just trying to make sure you guys get it. I remember last year there were all these sourced practice reports. We stay away from some of that. We got sources, too. But we respect what the football program wants us to do. I can't speak for anybody else. But we don't have these, these sourced reports because there's no accountability with that, right? And if those, quote, sourced reports last year were to be believed, Mike Wright was going to contend for the Heisman Trophy. You say, oh, Steve, come on. No. How many times did you hear about it? Read about it. I read about it too, Over on our message board, we don't, we don't discourage that type of stuff. You hear something, you feel good about it. As long as you qualify it as a rumor, I'm okay, fine, post it. But it takes on a different air when we do it, right? But I remember, some of those scrimmage reports, and I remember I read one of them, and I asked somebody on staff last year. I was like, man, it looks like that, maybe Mike Wright's going to push Will Rogers for the starting spot. They looked at me like I was crazy. And that's not to be critical of Mike Wright. I love Mike. Mike is great. He is. He's just not a great passer. And they're like, no, that's not what happened at all. I'm like, well, I read that he threw this touchdown and that touchdown, and they had this, and it's like none of that happened. And so it paints this unfair picture. And then we have our students, chanting, we want Mike, we want Mike, we want Mike. Where do you think that came from? Well, it came from these false reports. It's not fair to our fans. It's not fair to our players. It's not fair to the program. Well, this is what I heard. Yeah. Who'd you hear it from? And don't think there aren't people out there peddling misinformation, too. They try to do it with us. It happens. But all that I understood, we looked passing last year. It's guys, we passed for 181 yards a game. That's it. 15 touchdowns. That's it. 10 interceptions. Almost as many interceptions we had touchdowns. Ridiculous, man. Total offense last year, 3,943. We were outgained by our opponents, 250, 260 yards or so. But running the football, even with Woody Marks, and people talk about, Woody took a lot of time out. Man, Woody was a warrior for Mississippi State. He was. And last year, of course, he had to go it alone without Dylan Johnson. And Dylan, of course, went and played for some pretty major things. Didn't get drafted, but Dylan's a good dude. We could have certainly used him last year, but Woody got beat up last year. I remember before that Arkansas game last year, all this talk was he even going to play. Woody only played 9 games last year, and about half of the ones he did play in, he was beat up. And he led us in rushing with 573 yards. Do you wonder at all why he went in the portal? I mean, honestly, he's got pro football aspirations, and he didn't have anybody around him, and that's being nice, Mike Wright last year ran for 324 yards. He was your 3rd leading rusher. Seth Davis was 2nd. Of course, Seth out this year, recovered from an ACL injury. Seth got some explosiveness to him. Then you begin to look at this Jeffrey Pittman last year. I like Jeff Pittman. I like him as a role player, but he played in 11 games last year, had 268 yards, 1 touchdown. Kevon Lee played in just 8 games, 75 yards. And so those are your 2 leading returning rushers, Jeff Pittman and Kevon Lee. So obviously we had to go into the portal and try to find some players. Try to find some guys that can run the football. Now, of course, hey, Bulldog fans, do you wonder why so many dogs are suffering with health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, not just a pretty face with a ton of talent, she also has a heart of gold, and she's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. She says she's seen more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health care than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her own dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Dubas Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. How amazing is that? Guys, I'll tell you this, when that bag of Superfood Complete shows up at my house, my dogs absolutely love it. As soon as the bag opens, they can smell it. They're like, hey, I know what time it is. It's amazing. They will leave their regular food for this. Maybe you should give it a shot too. You love your dog? Go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard and order right now to get up to 50% off your regularly priced order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard today. Hey, Bulldog fans, Steve here. I'm a big proponent of saving money. I like to do it for you here on this show. Got another great opportunity for you. And here's the thing, too. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go through a lot of red tape and BS and all that kind of stuff just to save a few bucks. It's got to be convenient. That's the great thing about Mint Mobile. They talk about, hey, you can get wireless for $15 a month, and I thought, there's no way. It's just too good to be true. So I called them on it. Turns out it really is that simple. You can get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process might actually be the time it takes you to get off hold with your current provider. It's incredible. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard.
There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you know what? You can even keep your old phone number, along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. That's mintmobile.com/boneyard. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/boneyard. $45 upfront payment required. Of course, that works out to exactly $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for more detail. Some of that production is also based on the fact that our play calling at times was anemic. Also, how many times did we get behind in ball games and kind of have to abandon the run? You know, that's an important aspect of this thing too. You know, so it's not necessarily about the personnel; it's about the plan. We didn't have a great plan last year. And I don't know if you guys know this too, and I don't care what anybody says. We got turned down a lot when it came to that offensive coordinator spot. True story. And yes, the Kendall Browse stuff was real. Kendall Browse actually had a contract in hand from our people, and he turned us down. And it kind of got into a bit of a free fall after that. If memory serves me correct, and some people will dispute this, I think Kevin Barbay was 5th or 6th on our list. People, and well, Steve, you don't know? No, I know. But Barbay was very much down the list, and some people are like, "Hey, this kind of comes out of left field. How come you guys didn't know?" Because I said, "Well, because I don't think Zach Arnett knew the day before. You know, it wasn't like Kevin Barbay was a guy that we identified early in the process and just kind of formulated a plan to go get him. We were trying to pivot. And I like Kevin Barbay. I do. And I think he was put in a situation that, he deserves some credit for taking on the challenge. But we really weren't in a situation for him to do some good things. All right, looking at Oklahoma last year too. And not a great year at Oklahoma, but offensively they were pretty good. They ran for 2,368 yards last year. 182 a game. A little bit better personnel. A little bit better plan. You look at the passing numbers. 4,223. So Oklahoma last year, in year 2 under Jeff Lebby, 6,591 yards offensively. Much different dynamic. Much different. And he said, "But Steve, it's Oklahoma." Well, honestly, I think it's Jeff Lebby. Now, to be fair, you go back to the 2022 season and say, you know what, Steve, what Leb do in year 1? I actually wrote an article about that here recently. But, the percentages were pretty similar. And there were some times last year I think we just kind of ran the football to give everybody a break. All right, looking back at the 2022 Oklahoma season, they ran for 2,857 yards and then threw for 3,305. And so you had 6,162 yards of offense. Now, to frame that up and put that in some perspective for you, Oklahoma was 3rd in the country last year in total offense. In yards per game, 507 yards per game offensively last year for Oklahoma. 3rd in the country. LSU was 1st, and they had the Heisman Trophy Award winner. Oregon Ducks were 2nd, and they had the Heisman runner-up. And Bo Nix. And then there's Oklahoma. Pretty impressive type stuff. Do I expect that offensive proficiency this year? No, I don't. But you know what? We talk about we want to see an exciting brand of football. Oklahoma Sooners last year, guys, were 4th in the country in scoring. 41.7 points per game. That's more than Georgia. LSU, top offense, top scoring offense. It's the reason why Daniels won the Heisman Trophy. Oregon was 2nd. USC was 3rd. And then there's Oklahoma. It's pretty impressive when you think about it. And there's a reason you go out and you hire an offensive-minded coach. And I think that's what we have to have at Mississippi State. You know, we've had some of those years that we've been, kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust and play great defense, run the football, control the clock, try to win games 21-17 or something like that. But in order for us to attract the kind of recruits that we want, we got to be offensive. And you may remember this, but Mississippi State averaged 21.8 points per game last year. Jeff Lebby scored almost twice as much at Oklahoma. And a lot of that had to do with the running component of the offense. Now, when I look at our group this year, I stop short of saying it's a good group. I know that that's out there. People are like, well, we have some depth. I don't know that I agree with that. We got numbers, but do we have, a bell cow? I don't think we do. I think there are some things schematically that we can do kind of by committee here to make the running game go. And I recall, way back in the spring when I asked Jeff Lebby towards the end of spring, about running back, and he just kind of deadpanned and said, we have got to get better in that room. We have got to get better at running back. And so I'm not going to sit here and hype that group up. I've got some concerns about it. Matter of fact, on the offensive side of the football, I probably have more concerns about running back than I do any other position. That's not to say that we don't have some talent. That's not to say that we don't have some guys working hard. We absolutely do. But there's just a lot of unknowns with this group. Now, Johnny Daniels, one of the top running backs from the junior college ranks, and this is a guy that plays with some real moxie. This is a guy that'll run you over. 5'10", 200 pounds, showed up in shape and got in better shape. You've seen some clips out there on the Hell State football account of Johnny Daniels at times. Wears number 20. But he's a role player, right? Now, he may emerge. I know Glenn Davis told me he was an outstanding player for him at Colin. But we'll see. He's a JUCO success story. Was very lightly recruited out of high school, out of Crystal Springs. He goes to Colin, becomes a JUCO success story. So, you'll see him a little bit too. And I think a lot of this, too, with him is, giving him the opportunity to kind of acclimate to the college game. But I do think it's very much about committee approach. I don't think there's one guy. Now, Davin Booth, of course, got here in June. He's a senior. Another, kind of junior college success story. Went to El Monte, California, goes to Utah State. Now he's here and had a really good year last year. Didn't get the benefit of spring practice here, but I think when he's a senior, other than him just kind of learning the nuances of the offense and things of that nature, I think he'll be good to go. And if you get a senior, he has the benefit of summer and of course, all the off-season conditioning workouts and, they have all these meetings. It's not like it's not like he just saw the playbook the first day of camp. But we need him to be a dude. And watching him in practice, he gets in and out of his cuts really well. Like there's a lot of guys out there that have they're kind of alligator fast or straight line fast. But if they have to kind of make moves, they really lose a lot of foot speed. How many times you've seen that guy that's running wide open and he has to make a cut and he kind of has to round it off, Davin Booth has the ability to kind of jump cut. He's got good feet. And we need him to be good. Xavier Gayton is a guy, he actually may be the most explosive running back in the room. And I suspect he's going to play as a freshman. Now, he, again, the guy in high school, played some at quarterback, basically the Wildcat. But, he is a guy, too, that when he gets out on the open field, it's a touchdown. there's not many people, even in the Southeastern Conference, that are going to run him down from behind. And so when he gets loose, and you know Levy's got some things dialed up in the playbook to get those guys out in space and let them create. And I think Gayton's a guy, I think because of the fact you want the home run threat, I do think he plays some as a freshman. Does he play more than 4 games? I don't know. I think that kind of depends on him, you know. But the raw materials and the God-given ability are there for him. You know, Seth Davis, we've already discussed him, you know, out for the year. And I do think the change in offensive philosophy is probably a good thing for him. But we're Seth the best. Kevon Lee, of course, Levy has kind of mentioned him as a guy that has been, you know, a really good north-south runner, a guy that kind of carries the pile with him. You know, said he's kind of a 6-for-8 guy. Like he'll run for 6 and fall forward for 2 more to give you 8. And you got to have guys like that. That's one of the things that we look at on film. Even when we evaluate high school recruits, you look for guys that fall forward. You look for guys that have leg drive. You look for guys that in second effort can kind of, you know, scoot ahead for another foot or so, another yard. That's those the game within the game, right? Those hidden yards that nobody really talks about. You need guys like that. Kevon Lee could be that guy. Of course, this is a guy, you know, transferred in. We knew that he was going to be a depth guy and ran hard at times last year too. And so maybe he kind of puts it together this year. But I don't know that he can be your featured back. But I do know that he is a guy that's, you know, very big and physical and can do some important things for you, especially in pass protection. Jeffrey Pittman, I love Jeff. I don't know that Jeff got enough opportunities last year. And again, I don't know if we win that Arizona game without him. Pretty incredible touchdown, catch and run for Jeffrey out of Taylorsville High School. They do such a great job down there and have for a long time. They produce players in Taylorsville. Jeff's a senior, so we expect him to come in and and do some big things. And then, you know, behind him, it's a bunch of walk-ons. But, you know, primarily, you know, your 4 guys are going to be these guys: Booth, Gayton, Lee, Pittman. And, you know, kind of based on where we are and what we have, I don't know if you look at that group and say, hey, this kid is going to be a star. I think probably maybe the highest ceiling in the room is Xavier Gayton, who is a true freshman. Now, Booth, of course, has done some big things, had a great year last year at Utah State. We're going to make a step up in competition this year, though, and play in the SEC. And, you know, Jeffrey Pittman went through that last year. But when you start working through that, you begin to think about, you know, we got 3 senior running backs, but none of them are really highly accomplished college backs when you look at career numbers. You know, Booth, of course, has the best of those resumes. But, you know, it's when I go back again to what Levy said in the spring, we've got to get better in that room. And, of course, that's before you added Booth. That's before you added Gayton. You know, and so that's your returning players, who I think are essentially role players. And so somebody is going to have to emerge as the guy. You know, I think we've got some guys that are talented and that work hard and that'll play hard. I don't know that we have a lot of star power right now. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how this group kind of moves forward. And again, of the offensive line, I mean the offensive side of the football, this is the group that concerns me the most. Not because I think they're a liability. I just don't know if we have somebody there that's a game changer at this point. Those are my thoughts. And we'll find out together. But I think it's important we're honest with ourselves. We really need to get some big backs in this next class. And we got a couple high school guys we really like. We also have 3 seniors that are moving on. Maybe you take a guy in the portal late. Maybe that makes sense for you. But that room's got to get better, not just this year, but next year. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair has told me here as of late he has had some traffic from some of you, and we certainly appreciate that. But here's the thing, too. It's not just about supporting me and our sponsors. It's about making a good decision for yourself. That's the best relationship, right? When we all benefit, right? Blair buys some advertising on my show, so I benefit. Blair gets business from you, and you get the opportunity to have the dream of home ownership come true. Everybody wins, kids. How about that? And it's so great that we're all supporting each other. And Blair's been my friend a long time. I wouldn't do business with people I didn't trust. I'm not a sellout, right? And so I've got people that are kind of on a waiting list. I've got some people that have contacted me before and says, hey, Steve, I'd love to. Guys, I can't do it. I've already got a mortgage guy, And Blair's with me, and I think you should be with him. His phone number, 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. There's a lot happening in the world, right? But life goes on. Nobody's going to wait around for you, right? When you have to make a move in life, whether you've gotten a transfer, maybe you got a new baby on the way, maybe you've outgrown your current residence, take the guesswork out of all of that. You got enough to deal with, kids. Let Blair take care of the mortgage loan. 23 years in the industry, top 1% close ratio in the country, back-to-back years. Nobody stays in any industry 20-plus years by accident. It's because Blair gets things done. Thus, closewithblair.com. Maybe a situation where you've thought about it in the past, you're like, I just don't know, it's so complicated, I can't raise a down payment. Maybe you don't have to. Blair can help you navigate through this process. It can be very, very, very overwhelming. And so entrust your mortgage needs to Blair Chandler. Whether you're looking for a game day condo, looking for a brand new home, I don't know, maybe you're refi. A lot of discussion about what rates you're going to do soon. So be sure to check in with Blair. He can help you navigate through the labyrinth that is underwriting. He's also a bulldog too. I love to keep business in the family whenever we can. Again, his phone number, 601-500-2344. And I didn't hear back from Blair to see if he approved of the widespread list or not. But he was absolutely overjoyed to have the opportunity to hear one. So there we are. So again, we're kind of cleansing the palate today. Roy Samonti, our friend, called an audible and said, hey, you know what? We're doing these, piano intros. We're doing these guitar intros. We're doing this acoustic stuff. We've never done a list that songs that feature the cowbell. And I don't know if that's true or not. But we're about to bring our cowbells together in congregation at Davis Wade Stadium. So we're going to celebrate the cowbell today. It's great rock songs that feature the cowbell. Now, let me just go ahead and tell you guys this before we even get started. Okay, I love all of you, but some of you, with your eclectic music taste, sometimes you're a little bit snobbish. It's true. I like all music for the most part. There's some bands I don't like. I don't think less of you because you like them. It's true. There are just some bands I don't get, and there's some bands that I love, and you're like, Steve, it just didn't do it for me. My feelings are not hurt by that, but I am a little bit disappointed at times, because I think, hey, this is a band or a song that may be meaningful to you, but I don't know where you are in life. But nevertheless, we're going to do songs that feature the cowbell. But for those of you that like this obscure stuff, please, please, please don't hit me up and say, hey, Steve, you left, Husker Du off, their fourth album, third track or whatever. I'm not going to know that. And the truth of the matter is, even if you like it, it's just, it's not going to be anything that people are going to be excited about. But here we go. This is a great list. And I'll be honest with you, we've been on a roll here as of late. We have been. Some great lists, and the numbers show that. But here we go. Songs that featured a cowbell. This is one of my favorite Kiss songs, and of course it's sung by Gene Simmons. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with the track, as you should be. You absolutely should be. It's Calling Dr. Love. And there's Peter Criss out there kind of counting the band in with the cowbell. Now, one of the things I want to tell you about our list, I'm not necessarily ranking the songs by quality. I'm ranking them by the use of the cowbell. Because some of these songs are only, the cowbell is in the intro. There are others that it's kind of persistent throughout the song. I hope that makes sense to you. But Calling Dr. Love, number 10, from Kiss. You wanted the best, you got the best. Number 9, a song that we've heard at Dudy Noble Field over the course of the last year, is Cam Schielke's walkout song. It's Low Rider from War. Now, War, not really a rock band, but they were kind of classified one during their era.
And so I think it fits. And a lot of cowbell, the song opens with a cowbell, and it's kind of used throughout, but it's a little bit lower on my list because it's not what I would consider a classic rock song. But I think it's impossible to do a song about cowbells in connection with Mississippi State and not mention that. Number 8, I absolutely dig this track. I always have. I think Van Halen 2 sometimes gets overshadowed. I think most of you guys probably feel the same way. Those of you that love Van Halen 2 was great. It is great. But there are a lot of people out there that are like, you know, Steve, I went from Van Halen 1 to like 1984. And I think you missed some great stuff, to be honest with you. This is my personal opinion. You may disagree, and that's okay. I don't know, like the opinions about Van Halen, it's like, I don't know how anybody could ever look at Van Halen and say, you know what, this band was just another band. They weren't just another band. Eddie Van Halen changed rock and roll music. True story. Everything that we have today in rock music, you know, we talk about Excalibur, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, with the Knights of the Round Table. Well, that's Eddie Van Halen. God rest his soul. But we're going with Dance the Night Away here. Absolutely love it. Love the harmonies on this. I don't know that Mike gets enough credit. Michael Anthony was a great bass player and an even better backup singer. But that's your number 8 song, Van Halen's Dance the Night Away from Van Halen 2. All right, number 7, a song maybe you didn't see coming. But it's a song that I have loved all of my life. I think this song is, 40 years old, I think? I think that's correct. And it still gets played. It's an anthemic thing at sporting events. And Dee Snider, of course, being very, very, very in your face. And those videos in Twisted Sister, it was like anything that we'd never seen, like rebelling against our parents and against authority and things like that in a loving way, sort of. There was a lot of rebellion in the 80s, and Twisted Sister, of course, did not comply with societal norms. You know, like a lot of people were putting on makeup and wearing outrageous clothes. They took it to the extreme. I think most people would agree this is their signature track. Off the great album, Stay Hungry, it's We're Not Gonna Take It. Great use of the cowbell on that one. Number 6, another song that you hear regularly at Duty Noble Field. And typically when we do, and Brian Haydad is there, it becomes a bit of a ceremonious moment for him. He's a native of Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's Leslie West's Shining Moment. It's Mountains, Mississippi Queen. Absolutely love everything about this track. I love it. There's some songs out there that you listen to and say, you know, I could have used a little more bass here. I could have used a little bit there. I didn't really like the background. This is one of those songs to me that is just absolute perfection. It is. From start to finish. It's one of the reasons it stood the test of time. Leslie West, God rest his soul, probably an underappreciated guitar player. But that riff on that song is just incredible. I mean, you know it from the beginning. Number 5. Now, to be honest with you, I preferred the Guns N' Roses version of this track. Not to say the original wasn't good. It was. It's one of the reasons Guns N' Roses covered it again on a spaghetti incident. But it's Hair of the Dog from Nazareth. And I think I still have, I think I have this on my, my pronunciation on Facebook. You know, this is how you pronounce your name. And my name is Steve Robertson, but the pronunciation is Hair of the Dog. True. I absolutely love this song. I always have. I like the message behind it. I like songs that are in your face. Songs you're like, don't mess with me, and there won't be any problems. But if you do, now you're messing with an SOB. So there we go. Mississippi Queen, followed by Nazareth's Hair of the Dog at 5. Number 4, we're going to kind of stick with that era. Another song that had attitude and some bravado for different reasons. You know, we'd had the British invasion. Then we had the secondary British invasion. And a lot of people were like, you know, hey, all the best rock and roll music is coming to us from across the pond. And Grand Funk Railroad comes out and says, no, we're here too. We demand to be counted.
And what do? They come out and say, you know, we're an American band. And the cowbell on this, the percussion on this song is just next level. I absolutely love it. I have watched that Grand Funk Railroad concert in Shea Stadium, I guess it was, on YouTube a couple times. I remember watching it on TV as a kid. It's true. But Grand Funk Railroad's We're an American Band. You know, I absolutely love it. We're coming to your town. We're here to party down. We're an American band. Number 3, I don't know how you could put a cowbell list together without mentioning this one. This is one of my favorite Rolling Stone songs, without any question. You know, we've put the list together before. We could probably do a Rolling Stones week, you know, just kind of splitting it up by eras, because in the 80s, everybody matures and gets a little money, and everybody sells out a little bit. Not everybody is true to their artistic vision no matter what they tell you. Sometimes you do what the record company tells you to keep the checks coming. But it's honky-tonk women, and you know, it's been the ruin of many a young man. It's true. And, of course, it's a reference to Memphis. And, of course, they're part of the British invasion, but in many respects kind of had the Americanized sound. You know, Dave Murray, Uncle Dave, went and saw the Stones last year, I guess. You know, to this day, I mean, you know, it's like you think Dave, you know, Dave's probably popping Geritol every morning, going to bed, you know, at nightfall. Not true. Not true. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting about David Murray, too, David Murray believes like The Who is the greatest band of all time. I really don't like The Who. Dave loves them. He absolutely loves them. And it's, you know, we can talk music all day. Now, he doesn't know the new stuff. And he kind of tapers off around the 80s. But he told me the other day, I'm trying to remember what I was listening to. On my way to media. Oh, yeah. On my way to media, what was I listening to? I was listening to Jefferson Airplane. And so we talked a little bit about that. And he goes, yeah, I was jamming Warren Zevon. Right? It's 2024. You talk about me being stuck in the 80s. But, yeah, Dave's a rock guy. You wouldn't know it to look at him. But Dave is very much a rock guy and can talk music with the best of us. It's true. We've sat around before. You know, we mentioned those old media sessions during the Mullen years. We'd sit around and kind of come up with, you know, who are the top American rock bands of all time. And usually the discussion centers around, is it the Eagles or Aerosmith? I mean, that's what we kind of agree is the top 2. You know, CCR's in there. Dave didn't like them. You know, the Doobies are probably in there too, but that's the thing. Who is the greatest American rock band of all time? And it always boils down to those 2, Aerosmith or the Eagles. True story. And Dave got very passionate opinions on both sides. All right, number 2, we mentioned Guns N' Roses earlier. Steven Adler probably didn't get the respect he deserves, but I'll tell you, Matt Sorum, when Matt joined the band, Matt was a better drummer. Of course, Matt comes over from the Cult. And was a phenomenal player with them and had some great success on the Use Your Illusion albums. I think Guns N' Roses kind of took off as a band, too, because he was so much more technically proficient. Steven Adler was like kind of an 80s Sunset Strip drummer. But if you listen to that Appetite for Destruction album, where Adler was laying down the skins, you hear a lot of cowbell. And probably the best version of that is Night Train. My first listen through the Appetite for Destruction album, all those many years ago when I was just a teenager. Of course, you know, I'd already seen Welcome to the Jungle on MTV at like 2 in the morning. And the very next day I went out and bought the cassette. I was surprised they had it at Camelot Music, but they did. And I went and bought it. And the first listen, the song that jumped out to me was Night Train. Of course, you know Welcome to the Jungle. But Night Train, I was like, hey, this is a hit. And I don't know that it was ever officially released as a single, but they still play it as part of their set list because the fans love it. Number 1, on songs that feature the cowbell, we play this at Davis Wade Stadium. It's part of our pregame atmosphere. Of course, the great Will Ferrell sketch with Christopher Walken from Saturday Night Live. I Got a Fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Of course, the song that they were replicating during that skit was Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. So that's going to be number 1. And not because I'm a big Blue Oyster Cult fan, because I'm not. I mean, I like some of their stuff. But I'm a Mississippi State fan. I'm a Will Ferrell fan. I'm a cowbell fan.
born and raised. So that's going to be number one. Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. Kind of got an interesting breakdown at the end of the track, too. But yeah, the cowbell is kind of featured throughout the track, so it kind of fits our motif for the day. Hey, if you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. We get traffic pretty much every day, to be honest with you. I have people that hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. I have even people walk up to me on the street and say, Steve, love the top 10 list. Next time you do one, could you do this one? And more times than not, it's one we've already done. But it's hard to believe we've been doing this for over 4 years now. And still finding cool things to talk about. Of course, we update some lists as bands release new albums if they have songs that are worthy of top 10 inclusion. But you never know. We'll give you credit if you make a request. And I apologize for these tones. I'm a busy person. A lot of people trying to get a hold of your good friend and host. But all that I understood, I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And you can find Roy Samanti, my friend, our friend, the keeper of the list. He's on Twitter or X at Dogmatic67. That's Dawgmatic 67. You can find our great list on Spotify. And I'm beginning to learn that many of you are Spotify listeners over iTunes. I'm an iTunes guy just because it's easier for me. And I've been on iTunes from the beginning, when we had to buy music, and then we just got the family plan so I can listen to whatever I want, when I want. Isn't technology grand, kids? But yeah, just follow us on Spotify. Follow Roy at Dogmatic67, and our list was kind of auto-populated. So appreciate your support and all your wonderful ideas for the top 10 list. And again, you guys are the reason that thing happens. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love going into Campus Bookmart. Number one, it's like walking into Cheers, man. Everybody knows your name, I guess. And even if they don't, they treat you like family because in their minds you are family. You should treat them like family too whenever you think about buying your Mississippi State merchandise. When you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. If you can't make it to town, I know for many of you in the sound of my voice, it's difficult to get to Starkville. Maybe once every couple of years for some of you. And this is how you kind of keep in touch with what's happening. But you can visit them online at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75, and that's probably not going to be a problem for you. They have everything you need to update your Mississippi State wardrobe, what you need to decorate your home, your office, your RV, your fan cave, no matter what you call it. When you need Mississippi State merchandise, think of Campus Bookmart first. And as always, please support our Starkville businesses. You love Starkville, even if you can't get here, and you can help make it an even better place by voting with your dollars. Rather than going to Amazon or eBay, please support our Starkville merchants, namely Campus Bookmart. Okay, I had a chance to sit down with Chris Simonis yesterday to recap the portal class. He can't legally talk about them according to NCAA regulations until the first day of class, which was yesterday. And congratulations to all of you Mississippi State students now back in town. Guys, I love it when you're here. I do. I truly do. I know some other people are like, oh, it gets so busy and there's so much traffic. I love it when you're here. The one thing that I would say is when you're going to Walmart, take 82. Go to the neighborhood market or go up to 82 to get to the big Walmart. Don't get in 12 and stack up that right-hand lane all the way from campus to the right turn into the Walmart parking lot. I know what the GPS tells you. I'm being your friend here. Jump on 82, take 25, and then come around that way. You'll be glad you did. And you'll make everybody in Starkville happier too. But I love it when you all are here. I do. And I loved the little video yesterday they did. New dudes in town. And Dane Burns, of course, was on there. And Sawyer Reeves and Noah Sullivan, Braden Booth. Let's have more of that. I know many of you, it's like the only thing you really know about them is what I write. And I interview those guys and you get a chance to know them a little bit. There's only so many things that 1,000 words can do for you. But the first comment that I saw yesterday on that video that the Hell State Baseball account tweeted out is, man, Noah Sullivan is a grown man, and he absolutely is. And what does he say? I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win a national championship. That's music to our ears.
right? One of the things that you can read the interview with Chris Lemonis exclusively at genespage.com. Only place you're going to find that content. You can look the world over and think you found true love, but no. Nevertheless, Lemonis very open, excited about the class, and kind of gave us some behind-the-scenes stuff. That one of the things that jumped out to me was like Sawyer Reeves. Now, Sawyer Reeves, one of the first guys in our class from the portal. You know what his batting average is against fastballs 90 miles an hour plus? Why don't you take a stab at that? It's 400. 400. We talk about analytics. I mean, you know, the split level stats that you see, you know, there's batting average, hits, home runs, strikeouts, that sort of stuff, you know, but the advanced analytics on these guys are very good. Sawyer Reeves also was a walk-on. Legacy. His grandfather was a former president of the Citadel. And so he spent a lot of time kind of rooting for the Citadel in his life. And so he walks on there and ultimately becomes the team captain. That's impressive. I don't care who you are or where you're from. You know, you're paying your own way, and then you basically go in there and make the team your own. And he's got 1 year to kind of get this thing right, so he's transferring. And what you may not know, too, is that Sawyer Reeves turned down some free agent deals post-draft. Of course, he got married this summer, and of course people tried to say, hey, well, this guy's got a wife to feed and family to take care of, and so maybe we can get him to sign and begin his pro career. But he's like, you know what? I feel like God's leading me to Starkville. I want to go see what he has in store for me at Mississippi State. Very impressive. And Jacob Pruitt is a guy that we've talked about extensively on the show, and I think sometimes all that gets lost, right? Because here's the thing that I've learned about recruiting in all the years that I've covered it, is that we all want the new toys, right? And when guys commit, they kind of lose their hype, and you forget, because it's like the only thing better than a commitment is the next commitment. Doesn't matter to sport. You get all jacked up and excited about it, and it's like, okay, we got this, got that. Let's keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah, Jacob Pruitt is a real dude. And talked to a couple people, and Lemonis kind of reiterated this yesterday. I talked to some people in college baseball that know Indiana State baseball much better than you and I do, and they say he was the best arm they faced last year. It's that kind of guy. And so we expect him to compete for a weekend spot. I actually, right now, like if we were playing baseball this weekend, I think Pico Cohn is your Friday night starter. And some of you are like, yeah, but Steve, guys, I said it all year last year. You know, when Pico started getting healthy, and people forget how good he was as a freshman. Had to go through Tommy John. He comes back. And down the stretch, he might have been our best pitcher, to be honest with you. He was absolutely phenomenal. Had a good summer, and when I spoke to him after the draft, he was like, you know what, I'd be a fool if I didn't come back and work with Justin Parker for a full year. You know, and he was kind of worried about that, you know, and like when he gets back, you know, when Parker shows up and Pico's still kind of working his way back into good shape, you know, he didn't get the full benefit of that. And so it took some time to kind of get him going. But I suspect that Pico would probably be your Friday night guy and Pruitt probably your Saturday guy. And then we'll kind of flesh this thing out in the fall to kind of figure out, you know, who's the Sunday guy. And the thing that we've talked about extensively over the years is teams that get production from the bottom third of their order and find a Sunday starter typically play for things that are very meaningful. But if you told me Pico and Pruitt, you're 1-2, I feel good about that. And you know, I want to look back real quickly here with you. You know, with Pico. And so Pico on the year, 9 appearances, 8 starts, has a 3.38 ERA, goes 1-1 with a WHIP of 1.26, worked just 29 innings, allowed 26, so less than a hit per. That's always a good stat for us. 11 earned runs. He had 35 Ks against 11 walks. And you got to remember, batting average against 234. You got to remember, like that first start happened on the road at Samford. And we're in the process of just kind of bringing him back, kind of getting him back up to speed. But, so here was the Pico file from last year. You get Memphis, you go an inning. You're like, okay, kind of working him back in. He goes 2 innings at Samford, 3 against Alcorn State, which was his best early start. 5 Ks, no walks, 1 hit, no runs. We win that game 11-0. And it was really more about Pico. It was really more about, hey, what's Pico doing? Then we go to Memphis, and a little bit of a setback, I guess you could say. A little bit. We won the ball game, but it wasn't a great outing for Pico. Gives up 3 hits in the game, a couple earned runs, 3 Ks, 1 walk. And then, okay, we get Ole Miss, right? First SEC competition for Pico in 2 years. And he works 4 innings. 5 Ks, no walks, allows just 1 run. Step in the right direction. He pitches against Arkansas. 4 strikeouts, no walks. Gives up 3 hits in 4 innings and just a 1 run. A pretty good outing there for him. And then he gets Missouri. Works 3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. So again, not a great outing, but allows 2 runs in the 3 innings and 2 hits. So not great, but not terrible. ERA of 3 in that game. You give up 3 runs in an SEC game, you should win. All right, then he pitches against Tennessee, and he threw 72 pitches in that game, and you felt like, okay, this is the national champions here. But he goes 3 1/3 innings and allows 2 runs, 2 strikeouts, a couple walks. So good numbers, not great. And then you saw what he did against Virginia. He goes 7 innings, allows 6 hits, 2 of those earned runs, 8 strikeouts against the 1 walk there, and 2.57 ERA in the game. But again, you start looking down the stretch here, and you look at the walks. Once we got him back in the SEC play, and counting the postseason, he's got 5 outings there, and he has 6 walks in 5 outings. And you start doing the math here, 24 strikeouts. So he was trending in the right direction, and I feel really good about his development. And he is one of the most competitive guys on the team. And he turned down several $100,000 to come back. And he told me, he goes, hey, I know what I'm worth, and I'm not going to compromise that. Not when I've got leverage. But I think, kind of factoring him in with Pruitt, you start thinking about, okay, yeah, we've had some guys here that are kind of bouncing back from injuries, but at the same time, too, Justin Parker's got a full year to work with these guys, kind of build upon that, and I think you feel good about that. I think Pruitt's a guy that sometimes kind of gets lost in the conversation because he committed so early, but people forget, man. It's like he visited Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, and I want to see somebody else in the SEC. But, he had tons of offers. And really it boiled down to us in Kentucky. And even though Kentucky was closer to home, he chose Mississippi State. Just felt like that Starkville was a better fit for him, and the chance to work with Justin Parker was just too good to pass on. Now, Ace Reese is a guy that I have been high on. When he first went in the portal, a lot of people were like, hey, this kid is big time. This is a guy that, once he was completely healthy last year, was one of the best bats on the Houston Cougars team. Everybody was on Ace Reese. He's a guy that can play some third. He's a guy that can play basically all the corner spots. And Lamona says we're going to start him out and see how he handles third base this year. And that's one of the things last year. We didn't get the offensive numbers we had hoped to get from Logan Kohler, but defensively he was outstanding. A couple games here and there, but by and large, anything hit to the left side last year, you expected it to be an out. The year before, we had to hold our breath. So we kind of corrected the problem, and so now you start thinking, okay, Dylan Cupp comes back at short, and Sawyer Reeves is a factor somewhere, whether he plays at second or whatever, but you want that guy in the lineup. But then you look at Ace Reese, and you begin to think about another very, very explosive left-handed bat. And that's the thing that I look at, too. Last year, we didn't have enough left-handed bats. Certainly didn't have enough left-handed power. We've remedied that. Matter of fact, we may have more left-handed power with Hunter Hines back than we have right-handed power.
So that'll be something, too, that'll be interesting to see how people pitch us. We always talk about, having to face so many left-handers. I mean, everybody wants them, right? I'd love to be left, right, left on the weekends starting rotation for Mississippi State. I just don't know if a left-hander emerges and kind of takes ownership of that Sunday spot. But you certainly feel good, I think, of a left-hander going Friday and then Pruitt on Saturday. And then you begin to think about Ace Reese and how this lineup is constructed. I think he is a guy that will hit higher in the order. He does have the ability to steal some bases. He is a guy, obviously, that does a lot of good things. But everybody that I talk to on the scout level tells me this kid is ready to take a jump. He's made the adjustment to college pitching, and we expect him to make a big jump this year, and he'll make that jump in Starkville, Mississippi. Guy from Canton, Texas. Very, very significant get for us. Reed Stallman, I was very curious to see how he has looked. Lamonis tells me he puts on a show in BP. Another big left-handed bat. A big part of things when you start thinking about, Hunter Hines, and kind of putting people around him, kind of constructing this lineup. And Lamonis believes that Stallman's going to be a middle-of-the-order guy. A guy that can go out there, and he's probably a guy capable of hitting 20 bombs at Duty Noble, maybe hitting 20 bombs, driving in 60 runs. He's that caliber of guy, and a lot of freebies. The batting average wasn't great, but he wasn't striking out a lot. The strikeout ratio was really good. And so he's putting the ball in play. And some of that, too, is because he had a wrist injury that he was diving for a ball and jammed his wrist and tried to play through it. Average dipped. He took some time off, came back, and it was still a little bit tender. And so that's some of the issue with that. But, big, physical kid that can turn a fastball around. I think this offensive lineup has the potential to be better than last year. And there were some times that we were good, and even Jay Gautreaux said himself when I interviewed him that, we just kind of lacked consistency. And that's not a hot take. You guys all saw it yourself. We all saw it. And that's a big part of things, is finding a way to be consistent. And you got to evolve over the season, because the way people pitch you in March is not how they're going to pitch you in May. And I thought that's one of the things that we struggled with is, when people kind of made some adjustments on how they're going to attack some of our primary hitters, we had a tough time kind of adjusting to that adjustment. And so that's a big part of things. Baseball is a game of adjustments, not just in game, not just in weekend, but in season. Because once people find out that hot sheet on you, they figure out where you struggle, they're going to fill up the zone with pitches that make you uncomfortable. And we've got to find a way to overcome that. And I think you've got much more offensive potential this year. Now, and we'll get to kind of work through, the pitching aspect of it. That's one of those things, too, when you think about Huntgate, right? Transferred from VCU to Virginia. And Lamonis shared yesterday that he was the guy that we pursued when we got Tyler Davis and Connor Hyzak. They had all these changes at VCU, and we chased Hungate, and he ultimately goes to Virginia. And then our guys come here and have a great experience. He had a great experience in Virginia, but he decided to take the train, and now he's here. And Lamonis says he could be a factor starting-wise. He could be a factor on the weekends. He could be a middle relief guy. He could be a long relief guy. Could be a closer. He's a guy that can do a lot. He threw starter quality innings out of the bullpen. He was their primary reliever at Virginia. And so we've seen him up close. We know what he's capable of. And again, he's a guy that we wanted 2 years ago. And now we have him, an older guy. And so he's another guy that gives you some potential on the weekends. Not even thinking about like Charlie Foster. And I don't know that I can oversell Charlie Foster. And I think if he was a guy, too, that a lot of people had kept up with, because just kind of like out of the blue he commits, and you're like, okay, well, who's this kid? And we're right in the middle of all the portal stuff, and I don't think our fans fully appreciate how good he is. Charlie Foster is a guy that got invited to the MLB Combine and committed to Mississippi State while he was out there. Was a guy that turned down money to come to school, and this is a guy that has the potential to work his way into day one, day two of the MLB draft here over the next couple of years. And then you factor Dane Burns into all this, and there's so many things that I think that the casual fan
doesn't fully appreciate about this roster. And I'm eager to see him in the fall. We're going to encourage you to come out and go to fall scrimmages. But the one guy, I think most people would agree, the one guy that you really don't have any level of disappointment with on the Mississippi State coaching staff, because, familiarity breeds contempt. It's like, hey, well, those guys who were here in 22 and 23, they really let me down. We're not capitalizing on the national championship. But then you go out and hire one of the best pitching coaches in the country. It's Justin Parker. And so you begin to think about, okay, hey, I can take that worry about pitching, and I'll just let Justin Parker do his thing. Because I know what he did last year with a bunch of guys that really struggled in 2023. And we had one of the best pitching staffs in the country. And that's just with really 1 year. And so some of these other guys are working with them. And you start thinking about the fact that you're inheriting guys and then recruiting guys that maybe have a higher ceiling of the young guys that you had last year. And Charlie Foster is a big part of that. Dane Burns and Charlie Foster, both left-handed pitchers. Of course, Dane gets drafted in the 18th round by the Kansas City Royals, and he turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars to come play for you. Said he felt like that's where he needed to be. And I think Lamonis and the crew did a really good job kind of navigating through that. He took a gap year to kind of recover from Tommy John. The very first competitive baseball that he threw was in the Cape. And people were like, well, hey, Stevie, strike ratio wasn't great. Yeah, the guy hadn't thrown a baseball in a competitive ball game in almost 18 months. And now he's here. Big, physical guy. There are some people in Major League Baseball that believe he has the potential to be as good as anybody in the Southeastern Conference in 2 years. That's what you're dealing with. You put Burns and Foster together and you think, hey, between these two guys, we ought to be able to figure some things out. And maybe one of those guys is your midweek guy. Maybe one of those guys is your Sunday guy. Maybe you work them back and forth. But when you start looking at the ceiling for those guys, and that's really the thing too, you've got a higher floor, but you also have a higher ceiling. And Charlie Foster is a guy that I think is going to do some big things here. But that's our group. Of course, Garrick Fry's the guy, too, that, some of you guys fed him, and him and his dad and his teammates when they came and played in a game that we were expected to cancel. A lot of people thought we shouldn't play North Alabama, and little do you know that ends up getting us a player, right? It's weird. It's weird how life works. It's like it was supposed to happen. And Garrick Fry obviously was the best offensive player in North Alabama, so we'll see if he can make the jump to the SEC. But, I like the group. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a complete group. Of course, I would have loved life even more if Travis Smith had come because of the fact that you pretty much know what your weekend rotation should be heading into fall baseball. Would have loved to have had, one more outfielder, and still a lot of discussion about what Obi's going to do from Duke, and he is a mid-year guy, and you got to wonder about that, right? And that's the thing that I think about is you bring your team together. High school kids get here in July. Transfer portal guys and JUCO guys get here in August. Everybody works through their preseason workouts together. They begin to form as a team. Then you go through fall baseball together. You compete. And then you bring somebody else in January. And, of course, we did that last year with Joe Powell because we had an injury to Ross Highfield. But that's one of the things that I think about. What does that do to you chemistry-wise? Those are things you got to figure out, And, of course, you get through the fall and you begin to say, hey, we need another outfielder. Well, then you go get him, It's not about people's feelings, but it is sometimes about team chemistry and team morale. And so it's like, hey, I went out here and I worked hard in the summer, I worked hard in the fall, and I won a job, and then you bring somebody else in. But, competition's a part of life. But I can't sit here today and tell you that, hey, I know how that's going to play out. I think I know, but don't know for sure. So we'll see. And again, that's the thing about the evaluation period, right? You can go through the fall and say, you know what, hey, let's go get him. But when you look at the numbers in conference play, he wasn't great. He wasn't. Now, he's a great defender, and that's part of the thing too. But you've got some time to figure it out because, again, he's not going to graduate until after the semester. And so he'll join a new team in January. And maybe it's ours, maybe it's not. But that's something else that's still out there. But, the portal class is done, barring something late, that may happen mid-semester. And again, this time last year, we had no idea who Joe Powell was. And now you guys love him, and he's back for another year. And again, I think catching is going to be a strength. I mean, Ross Highfield, I'm a huge fan of Ross Highfield. And I understand that he had some troubles early on with pass balls. But that's a true freshman trying to figure it out, trying to block up an SEC breaking ball in the dirt. Until you've done it, you don't know if you can do it because you don't see it in the high school level. I don't care what travel team you play on. Until you see a guy that goes out there and buries an Uncle Charlie at about 3,000 RPMs and you keep that ball in front of you, you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. But that's where things stand with the portal class. And again, you can read that piece exclusively over at genespage.com. It is a VIP piece. And so if you needed some impetus, these are the kinds of things that we do. We have exclusive interviews with coaches. Matter of fact, I had a sit down a few months back, not long after Jeff Lebby got here. I had a one-on-one interview with Coach Lebby. And recently I've had one-on-one interviews with Mark Vatler, who was the director of player personnel at Mississippi State. Basically handles the recruiting side of things. And then David Wolzewski earlier this week. He is your director of football ops. And so sat down with him. And so those are things, some intel and insight you can get exclusively at genespage.com. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. I don't know if you know much about the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, but you should. And how many times have you thought about, man, it'd be so great to get everybody together under one roof? Being together, even in small doses, is the flavor of life, right? Like, I don't know how your life is. I am busy all the time. I'm not a big Netflix watcher. I'll watch it at night when I'm getting ready to go to bed, when you kind of calm down for a little while. But, it's 365 days a year, and usually 12 to 15, 16-hour days. And so when I get a chance to kind of get away for a little while and break bread, have some downtime with people that I care about, whether it be friends or family, those are special occasions for me. They truly are. And the older that I get, the more that matters to me. I mean, I can't hug the fam chat. It's great that I'm in touch with everybody, and I love hearing their stuff. Like Audrey just finished watching Ozark, and I've been dying for her to watch it, so now we can talk about it. But the reality of it is that there's nothing like being there. And there's probably no better place to gather if you're a Mississippi State fan than Starkville, Mississippi. Come up here for a ball game weekend, come up here and you say, hey, we're going to come midweek and watch the men's basketball team play and watch the women play the next day. Maybe you're bringing a work group to town. And maybe that's part of your entertainment. It's like, hey, let's go and we'll stay in Starkville. Maybe we're going to be spread out over the Golden Triangle, but let's all stay together. We can cook together. We can drink together. We can recreate together. And maybe go to the ball game together. Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe you're grandpa and grandpa now. And you understand how difficult it is to get everybody under one roof. How special would that be? Maybe mom and dad to say, hey, we're going to rent this place out, and we want everybody to come. Bring the grandkids. Let the cousins hang out. Maybe it's a couples weekend. I can't sell it enough. It's a great place. 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, that full-service kitchen, that huge back porch area, the wet bar, the fire pit. It's starting to cool off a little bit, thank goodness. And conversations around a fire are just more meaningful. I don't know why that is. I don't make the rules. I just try to abide by them. 5 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's the old renovated clubhouse at the old country club. Very easy to get to. And you can do your tailgating there. How cool would that be? Hey, we'll just go ahead and cook out here and, we'll kind of put it up and then we'll go to the ball game and we can come back and it'll still be out if we want to have some leftovers, right? Instead of having to pack everything up, bring it to campus, then you got to pack it up, go to the ball game, or you do it afterwards. It's such a hassle sometimes, and I commend those of you that are so committed to it. But the Stark Vegas Clubhouse can make it that much easier for you. So Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and when you do, their Facebook page will pop up. You can peruse the pictures and see all the fine amenities that are available to you and your guest. And when you do that, you're also going to see some booking options come up. You can book through Airbnb. You can book through VRBO. That's cool. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. It's BSR10, the number 10, BSR10. Get 10% off your stay.
you're saving some jack just by listening to this show. There's no better place to stay in the Golden Triangle than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, I want to make you guys aware of something else too. And we're going to be back tomorrow, and it's going to be football only tomorrow because we spoke to Lamonis and got his first public comments about the portal class. And, of course, JT Ginn elevated to the pros. Yes, sir. Happy for him. 70th Diamond Dog to reach the big show. Man, isn't that great? Do you want to make sure that the next group comes in? Yeah, there's a cool thing that we're doing, genespage.com in conjunction with the Bulldog Initiative. And I want to tell you a little bit about this, how it kind of all came together. Legendary Mississippi State pitcher Frank Montgomery. I had a chance to sit and dine with Frank some time ago at Obie's, and we sat and visited, and he gave me this poster, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'd never seen it before, and so we did that. If you made, I think, $1,000 donation back in the '90s to the Bulldog Club, and you got this Bulldog Legends poster with Ron Polk in the middle, and Ron has signed it. Jack Lazorko, Frank himself has signed it. Rafi Palmero, Thigpen, Brantley, you know the names. Boo Ferris. How about that? You can't get that autograph now, and that's a thing too. So many of our Bulldog legends, are kind of passing away. But so 610 of these posters were printed because Ron Polk at the time had 610 wins. Well, Frank discovered some time ago that that his partner that helped him put this thing together, they traveled the country and got these posters signed themselves. These are Bulldog people doing this for Mississippi State. There was about 100 or so of these posters in a box wrapped up in mint condition under a bed. And Frank's like, "Hey, I want Mississippi State baseball to get something from this. We put our hearts into this, and they're just sitting around now. And goodness, it's been almost 30 years since these posters have been available." Well, Frank said, "You know what, Steve, what do you think?" Well, we approached Mississippi State before and thought, hey, this could be a Bulldog offering, Bulldog Club offering. Maybe it's something for the Dugout Club. And I don't know if the timing just wasn't right or if it was just a situation, maybe the people that I spoke to weren't interested. And I thought this is an amazing piece of Mississippi State baseball memorabilia that needs to be in the hands of Bulldogs. And so a while back, we're sitting here working through all the portal stuff, and you start what everybody says, hey, we need to raise more NIL money. It's more importantly, people say, hey, we need to spend more NIL money. And that money has to come from somewhere. Of course, there is some help on the horizon. As the school's going to now legally be able to fund some NIL stuff. But it's just like when we did Rock Vegas. It's like you need to give people some incentive to give. And not just say, hey, give because you love Mississippi State. And a lot of people do. A lot of people are very generous with their money. And so I thought this is a perfect situation here where we have these posters, these incredible pieces of Mississippi State memorabilia that we didn't know we had. And so let's work through the initiative. And then hey, if you went out and bought this thing, again, people were given $1,000 30 years ago, and hey, the economy isn't the best these days. And we thought, hey, let's price them to move, right? And so you can buy them through the initiative for $500. That's it. So half of what it was 30 years ago, and again, I think there's about 10% of these left. As of this morning, in 2 days, we had sold 36 of the 100. And so there's no guarantee that if you wait to next week that you're going to be able to get one. It is one of my most prized pieces of Mississippi State memorabilia. It's incredible. And I think to myself as I'm writing that chapter about Boo Ferris, I'm thinking, isn't it crazy that I've got his autograph on my wall leading up to my office? And we posted this on Gene's page, and a lot of our fans are like, hey, I have this, and it is my most prized possession when it comes to memorabilia.
So you can get involved with that. You can have that. And, of course, Mississippi State baseball benefits from that because it goes into the NIL coffers for baseball. Now, a couple things that I want to say about that, because one of the things that I've learned about life is no matter how well-intentioned you are, and no matter how much good you do, and no matter what you do for the sake of other people, there will always be somebody, and typically it's somebody that's very uninformed, that has a strong opinion. Somebody's like, well, Steve, why are we doing this for baseball? Well, because you've got a Mississippi State legendary pitcher that put this project together that wanted Mississippi State baseball to profit from the endeavor. That's number one. Number two, let me tell you some other things that I have done and genespage.com has done in the NIL era. You may recall we had the Rock Vegas show a couple years ago. Yeah, down at Hobie's. And we raised over $30,000 that went directly to the Bulldog Initiative. And I told Charlie when we did it, I don't want to handle the money. I want to set this thing up where we do the ticketing where everything goes right to you. You set it up. We'll put the tickets on sale. And then the money goes directly to BI. And then you use that money however you see fit. And granted, it's $30,000, right? It's not $300,000. It's $30,000. We had a killer time. We had a great rock show. We brought Lillian Axel Starkville for the very first time. And we raised $30,000. And so, again, I told Charlie, it's dealer's choice. If you need it for softball, use it for softball. If you need it for football, you do what you need to do with this money. You were the steward of our money, and I just want you to have this. And it was also to kind of promote Bulldog Initiative. We also did a handful of challenges last year at genespage.com, and Charlie was so generous to kind of set up a code for us. And it was like, hey, if Mississippi State wins by this, then we, Steve Robertson and or GeneSpage, will donate X amount of dollars, X $100, and I challenge you to join me. We raised over $20,000 that way too. And so you start adding that up, right? It's like, hey, I'm just going to challenge you guys. If State wins by X amount of points, then we're going to do that. Then we had the basketball game in Tupelo, and we donated to that too. We were a sponsor for that game in Tupelo on the men's basketball side. In addition to that, we also gave $1,000 of our own money for the $1 million march match, whatever it was. You know, and we have done a lot of things with NIL at Mississippi State, and you know, and so I want to make sure that everybody understands we are committed for the advancement of Mississippi State. And so when the university or Bulldog Initiative has something, we're not just going to tell you and encourage you to give. We're putting our money where our mouth is. And there's a lot of people out there that got a lot more mouth than me and apparently a lot less money. And so I say that because we are going, as long as we live in this era of NIL, we're going to do what we can to help raise money for Mississippi State student athletes because we're Mississippi State people. And I love the fact, well, you know, my integrity. What integrity? Okay, people are like, well, my journalistic integrity prohibits me from doing that. If you don't have the money, just say you don't have the money. Right? Let's not sit here and you know, create some, you know, ulterior motive when it's like, well, I can't do it because of this. Yeah, come on, give me a break. And so I just share that with you, and maybe that's petty of me to do so, but the reality of it is I don't know what anybody else is going to do, but I know that when Charlie Winfield and the Bulldog Initiative puts things together, I'm going to support them. Not just by retweet, but we're going to give money. And this was a fundraiser that we put together. You know, Frank mentioned these posters some time ago. I went to Charlie and said, hey, we've got this opportunity here. And so we brokered a meeting. Me and Frank and Charlie met at Charlie's office. And we put the infrastructure together. Now it's offered out there. And so there are a lot of people out there that like, hey, I would really love to give. Well, now we're giving you some incentive to give because you're going to get a priceless piece of Mississippi State memorabilia that you can frame up and have forever that can't be replicated. Coach Paul Gregory signed those posters. It's incredible to think about that. I mean, again, only 610 printed and signed, and Bulldogs put this thing together. And now Bulldogs working together to raise money for that next crop of Bulldogs. And when it's all said and done, it'll raise about $50,000. But when you start adding all this stuff up together, right? 30,000 here, 20,000 there, a couple thousand here for this sponsorship, a little bit more here for the $1 million match. We'll have raised over $100,000 for the Bulldog Initiative. And so I don't care if it's a bake sale. I don't care if it's a rock concert. We'd love to get the big checks, but all of us can contribute in some way. And again, I think it's a great thing when you can offer some incentive for people to give. A lot of people are on the fence. Man, I'd love to be able to give that, but now all of a sudden, you pretty much have a priceless, item that you never have to part with. Super cool. So you can go to Bulldog Initiative and you can see Bulldog Legends. I've tweeted out the article multiple times. I'll do it again today, a couple times. And once they're gone, they're gone. We can't come up with any more. Simple as that. I mean, some of these people are dead and gone, so we can't go out there and do any more. But I think these, instead of these being under a bed, they need to be in your hands and on your wall. And then the proceeds of the sale of those things need to go to advance Mississippi State's athletics pursuits. And so, again, we're going to be involved. We hope that you will be as well. And my hope is that you'll challenge other people to get involved rather than just accept their flimsy excuses. If you hadn't done so, go to DutyNobleBook.com and you can pre-order The Dude. And we hope to get a release date next week. But everything has been with the printer now for some time. The files have all been transferred over. And obviously it's not going to be late August. Probably late September. Hopefully it doesn't dip into October. But that's kind of where we are. Really excited for you guys to have this book. I think it's the best thing I've ever written. My heart is in every word. But my research on this was extensive. And I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't make a mistake or leave out an important thing, an important story. A lot of these things are 100 years old, and so, but there's never been a book written like this one, ever, in the history of our university. And I take a lot of pride in that. And so you want to support me, join the website, buy the books, share the show, share our content, a lot of things that you can do that don't cost you a lot of money. And we certainly appreciate you being a part of that. And if you haven't floated, you need to. A lot of people say, Steve, I've been thinking about it. Stop thinking about it and come. I mean, you're not hurting me. You're hurting yourself, right? And, of course, right when everybody started coming back, July, things started picking up. August has been really busy. And you can download the True Rest app, and you can schedule online, or you can dial 662-268-7601 and speak to my lovely wife. She's a registered nurse. She can answer any of your medical questions or as best she can. And if she didn't have an answer, she can get you an answer. But in addition to that, too, it just makes life a little easier to navigate, man. And I say that, if you've got chronic pain, you've got anxiety and stress in your life, or you just need a break, we may be able to help you with that. It's true. And so come be a part of that. True Rest of Starkville. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We don't do a whole lot of that stuff. We're not going to post pictures of our food or the outfit of the day. Not doing it. Maybe I should, but we're not. But True Rest of Starkville. And it's been great. Been open now over 6 months. Yeah. And we've had a lot of people, man, that have been with us since the beginning. That come regularly. We got some people that come every week. We have some users that come multiple times a week. We got others that come once a month. You may find that it may be something that helps you live life a little more comfortably. You could also, too, chances are you're going to sleep better. It works really well for me. And usually after about a week, 9 days or so, I know I got to go float again, right? Because I start feeling the effects of it wear off. It's kind of longer lasting than some other things that I've done. And of course, it's safe. It's not like taking medication. And so I think you would enjoy it. I don't need to sell you on anything. I just got to get you in the pod one time, and you're going to walk out and say, that was incredible. It's like delivering flowers, man, and people leave happy. It's great. I'm so glad we did this. And again, we're making Starkville a better place. I hope that you'll join us and help us make Starkville a better place and support our businesses and come be a part of that. And if you're coming for game day weekends and you're out of town and you start thinking, you know what, hey, Steve, I'd love to get in there and float, you need to book ahead of time. I'm just telling you now, I can't make you any guarantees, especially when we get deeper into the season and people come. A lot of people are going to want to come try it, even if they're not living in our greater Golden Triangle area. And we're already starting to see people book for football weekends. You need to be thinking about that as you move forward. But hey guys, thanks so much for your support. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies and people can see a difference in the way we live.